Hey guys, it's Matt with BleepinJeep. Today we have, I don't even know how many we have. Today we have 5 safety tools, extraction tools, safety extraction tools, emergency get out of the car tools. They go by a lot of names. But I found the cheapest ones on Amazon. I'd like to go over them with you today, talk about the pros and cons of each one, and then maybe we'll break a window or two at the end. So what do I mean by a car safety tool? Well, basically what we're talking about is a hammer to break glass and a seatbelt cutter. And the reason that you would need this is for maybe 3 scenarios. One is your vehicle goes into the water. You need to break the glass and escape. Maybe your vehicle catches fire and you can't get the door open, whether you've got electric locks or something like that. Or maybe you're in a rollover situation and you need to cut the seat belt, and maybe you've taken such a hard rollover that the door won't open, so you need to break the glass to get out. So that's what a safety extraction tool is, or a safety tool is. Let's go over the kinds that I've got here. So in no particular order, we'll just start with this one over here. This one has a plastic case that comes along with it, and you can screw that down. And then this pulls out, and it's got a seatbelt cutter, and it's got a hammer, a dual hammer on either side there with a sharp point, and that's very important. You'll see why here in a little bit. So this one was I got both of these for $7.99, so that's $4 a piece for these. So that's one of the cheaper ones. Let's move on to this one here. What do we have in the box? This one is a knife. So this one you can carry in your pocket. It's a knife, but it's also a safety tool in that it has a window breaker on the back, basically just a sharp point to break tempered glass. It could also serve to cut your seatbelt because it is a knife. Although if you're upside down dangling, you might want to be careful that you don't stab yourself with that. Alright, let's get this one out. I'm going to stab myself right here. Alright, so this one is more expensive than any of the other ones at $21.95. But I got it anyway because it was the only one that had this function that I could find. Well, all 3 functions basically. So it had the USB charger with a seatbelt cutter and a glass breaker. And that was the cheapest one that I could find with all 3. The next one you'll see this one was $12.99. And it's really heavy, actually. I thought this would be like plastic or something, but that is one heavy USB charger. And you'll see at the tip there, it's got a pointed piece of metal for breaking the glass. And then it also has the USB charging ports, but it does not have the seatbelt cutter. And then the last one that I picked up here on Amazon, it was actually the cheapest one at $3.82, and it's a pen. So it's you twist this, pen comes out, you can put it in your pocket. It's got a glass breaker on the end of it, but it can also be used as a self-defense tool. If you've noticed there, it's got these flutes here, and you can use that for self-defense. It doesn't have, however, a seatbelt cutter. And I think I forgot to mention the knife. The knife was $8.75, although I do have a K-Bar maybe it was $80 knife. Not this one, but it's one similar that does have a glass breaker on it. So you can get knives any range with the safety tool on it from $8.75. That's the cheapest one I could find, all the way up into the hundreds of dollars. So some of you may be yelling at your phones right now saying, why do you need to cut your seatbelt? Just unbuckle, right? Well, if you've ever been in a rollover situation, and I have had this happen before, you're upside down in the vehicle, your weight is on that belt. So there's a little latch, right? And I don't know how it looks inside there, but let's say it looks like this. And you've got your weight, however much you weigh. In my case, that's 137 pounds. I'm kind of ashamed to admit. But you cannot press that button, because to press that button, you have to let off of that weight. So if you're sitting there dangling, you cannot unbuckle your seat belt, because you just can't press the little button that hard to lift up 137 pounds off of that latch. And if you weigh 300 pounds, it's going to be even worse. So that's why you need a seatbelt cutter, is because your seatbelt, in an accident or in a rollover, it can get stuck and you can't get it undone. I've had it happen. Another thing to think about is your car doors may not open if your car is full of water. So you've probably all seen the Mythbusters videos where you have to let the water come all the way in the vehicle. The pressure has to equalize before you can get the door open. So to get out, what you need to be able to do is to break the window. And if you're saying, well, just roll down the window, if you have electric windows, that's probably not going to work a lot of times in a crash, or if you're in the water, or when your vehicle is wrecked or on fire. So that being said, let's talk about the pros and cons of each one. I'm not going to discuss price, because you can't put a price on safety. But this one right here, it's got this plastic thing that holds it, and it's got some screw holes here where you can bolt it down. And that's one of the biggest safety features, I think, that I would recommend, is you have to know where this thing is after a crash. Let's say you get jolted in a big crash. You don't want to be searching around in your glove box or something. This needs to be right there, available and handy, where you know where it is at all times. It doesn't move. It always stays in the same place. And, that's what they attempted to do here. Now, is it going to stay there? That's my only concern about this one. If you give it a good enough whack, it just pops right out of there. So, that being said, I'm not sure that this is going to stay in place during a wreck. Let's talk about the tool only, though. The tool, it's got the seatbelt cutter. It's big. You can hold it. You can swing it like a hammer. And it's pointed on both ends. Now, why would they do that? I don't know, but my theory is that if you're in the dark, if you're underwater, it's at nighttime, you can't see, but you can feel this thing. You don't have to figure out which end is which. You just swing it any direction, and you're going to break the window. So this tool, I would say I like the design. I don't like this cheap little case because it's going to pop out. Next up is the knife. So the knife goes in your pocket. You'll always know where it is. That is, if you always carry it with you. In my case, I always carry a knife, not this one, but if you do, you always know where it's at. The problem with that is, if it's in your pocket, it's kind of under the seat belt. It might be kind of hard to get to in an emergency situation when you're panicking upside down in the water. So there's that. But this does have a knife. It's got the window breaker. Doesn't really have the seatbelt cutter, but of course it is a knife, in which case you could cut a seatbelt with it. And I was looking. Oh, in fact, I didn't even see this before. That's kind of stupid of me, but I think it does have a seatbelt cutter there. I can't really see that well. Is it? Looks like a blade in there. I think it does have a seatbelt cutter. So I stand corrected. It does have a seatbelt cutter. We'll test it out here in a minute and see if it works. But it's got the seatbelt cutter, the glass breaker, and a knife. Problem is, you have to get to it in your pocket. All right, next up, this one. So I like the fact that this is the USB car charger, and if you use your phone a lot, you have this plugged in, you're always going to know where it's at, right? So theoretically it should be there, and in a wreck, I don't imagine that this would come loose. You know, it could, maybe, if you're rolling down a hill 100 times, but I would bet that this would stay in its place in a wreck. So you would have to maybe pull the cords out, and then you have to cut the seat belt. It's got the seat belt cutter thing, and in this one the glass breaker is spring loaded, so you just push it onto something and it pops the glass. So that's kind of nice. And the reason I say that is because let's say you're completely underwater and you're completely submerged. I don't know, how hard is it going to be to swing a hammer underwater? You all know that it's kind of hard to move underwater. So could you break a window with a hammer underwater? I bet you could. But it's going to be a little easier maybe with one of these spring operated punches. So I think this is probably the best tool, dare I say, out of all of them here. Even though we haven't gone over these yet, but it's the most expensive still. Now, this one is a lot heavier than I thought it was going to be, which is good in this case. It's probably less likely to stay put, though, since it is so heavy if you were to get into an accident. I'm just guessing there. And it doesn't have the seatbelt cutter. It does have weight, heft, and it is a sharp point, so I bet you could break glass with that. But I would be concerned about cutting your seatbelt if you were upside down. And then the pin. So the pin comes in handy for breaking glass, protecting yourself. Let's say you're in a place where you are not allowed to carry knives, or it's illegal to carry knives. Can you carry this? I don't know. Maybe it's illegal too. But theoretically it's just a pen, right? So it also works as a pen. If you have this in your pocket at all times, you always have a pen with you. Once again, it doesn't have the seatbelt cutter though. So again, I'd be worried only carrying this that you might need to cut your seatbelt if that situation arose. So out of these tools here, I would probably, if I was going to pick one, I would definitely pick this one. That would be great for your wife too. You'd have to, show her how it works and teach anyone who didn't know how this operated that it is a punch. This one I would think that you might forget, it sits in there so long you think it's just a regular USB charger. You'd probably forget about that. This one, obviously, it's pretty obvious what this is. Even for somebody who gets in your car for the first time, they would know what this is. So I would probably pick maybe a more expensive version of this that has a better case that holds it into place. Because like I said, if you can't find it after the crash, it's useless to you. So I'd probably pick one of these. And then a more expensive knife with a glass breaker tool on it. This one I just wouldn't, it's too heavy for me to carry around all the time, but for $8 that's what you get. Alright, I found a seat belt here. I really don't want to cut it because it's a nice belt, but this is how much you guys mean to me. I'm gonna do it. So we'll start off with this knife here. I definitely wouldn't want to rely on that to get me out. Okay. Well, it does have a blade in there, but is it a total failure unless I'm doing something wrong here? That's a total failure to cut the seatbelt. Let's try this tool. Whoa, that was a lot easier. Now this is the only other tool that had a seatbelt cutter, so let's try that out. Uh-oh. God, what's the deal? There we go. I got it to cut, but it was not easy. Let's try it again. Running out of seatbelt here. Okay. If you cut at an angle, it seems to cut a lot better. Let's go back to this one. No. This one is just a piece of junk. So, yeah. But by far the easiest was this one. I don't know if it's because of the leverage that you have with the big long tool or what, but it cuts like butter. I'm just barely pulling right there and I can just carve that seat belt. Alright, so I'm going to put my safety Mamba Jambas on there and my safety gloves so I don't get any hate in the comments section. Oh, who am I kidding? I always get hate in the comments section, but maybe I'll have less now. Alright, I got 3 pieces of fine glassware here. Let's have a little fun. Okay, so if you're not aware, when you go to break glass, you don't want to break the windshield glass. Now the windshield glass is laminated glass, and it's made special so that it doesn't break and it doesn't blow into your face if you hit a rock or something going down the highway at 70 miles an hour. There's a piece of plastic in between the glass, and it's laminated together using heat and pressure. And so it's made that way so that, like I said, it just doesn't shatter everywhere. Now tempered glass, on the other hand, is made to shatter. They want it to shatter into little tiny pieces so that you won't get cut. When you shatter tempered glass, it's not just like regular glass. It's not going to make these long shards that will splice you open. Tempered glass uses a special heating and cooling process to make it 5 to 10 times stronger as well. So that being said, it's a lot harder to break tempered glass than you would think. If you try to hit it with a hammer or something really flat, even something like a bowling ball, it's pretty difficult to break it. What you need to break tempered glass is a very sharp point, and you want to do it at the corner. Now why do you want to do it at the corner? Well, the corner is where it's held in place. There's no give or flex, or at least there's less give or flex. If you hit it right in the middle somewhere, the glass actually bends. It absorbs that impact. So you want to hit it towards the corner, and that's going to be your best chance of breaking the glass. There's acorns falling all over the place. So first I want to show you how hard it is to break glass. Hopefully I don't stick my foot in my mouth. But I've got a hammer here with a flat, edge to it. It's probably going to be a lot harder than you think. I'll ramp this up a little at each time to see how far you have to go to actually break it. Now, I've got 3 different kinds of glass here. I've got, this is tinted glass, but the glass is actually tinted. Then you've got glass with no tint, and then you have glass with an older tint that's been, tinted aftermarket, and that's going to have a film on it, so when it breaks, the film's going to hold it together. So keep that in mind if you're busting out glass and need to escape. If you've got an old tint film on it, you're going to have to push that out of the way. You ready? It's kind of scaring me at this point. So it finally went, but as you can see, it's a lot harder to break glass than you would think. Now let's do this one with one of our safety tools, and I'll get my slow-mo out. I'll try to slow-mo it for you too. If you look real close, you'll notice that the glass is still moving. That's because it's under enormous tension, and even after you break it, it still wants to crack apart. Now, let's do it with this tool. Now remember, this has a spring-loaded punch, and we want to do it in the corner somewhere. So how about right here? I'll do it where the camera can see it here, the slow-mo cam. Now it should just take once, and you don't even have to swing. Let's give it a shot. That was pretty simple. Okay guys, I'm going to use this hammer for the last one. I'm also going to use it for the intro and probably the thumbnail. That's why I've got it hanging up. Are you ready? Hopefully I can do this in one hit, even though it's not going to be in the corner. 3, 2, 1. It broke when it fell. Well, that just goes to show you that if your glass is not supported, it's harder to break as well. It just kind of swung back and forth. And it also shows you this window tint holds it together. It shattered just fine, but it all stuck together because of that window tint. So watch out for that. Well, that was an ultimate fail there at the end, but I hope you learned something. I hope you enjoyed the video and maybe got a laugh in there at some point. If so, check out the Patreon page at patreon.com/BleepinJeep. There you can help us make more videos like this. Maybe support us as creators as well, doing the things that we do. Because let's face it, we're not rich doing this kind of stuff. But ultimately, we hope you enjoy it. Thanks a lot, guys. Hit the thumbs up and subscribe. Check us out on Facebook, Instagram, all that good stuff. We'll see you next time.